Alright, let's get back to doing this. Alrighty, I get a needle poked in my eye. And at first, I thought it was hydrogen peroxide, which it ain't. It's benadine, the red stuff, and not the hydrogen peroxide. So I figured I would come on and tell you what they put behind your eye. It's sore and you can't hardly see when they do it. But alright, let's get back busy again. Let's see what we can do about getting more of this done.
So you can find this stuff on the usgs.gov site. There are similar flights doing this imaging of the geology. It's been funded by the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, and they're basically aggressively mapping mineral deposits all over, for sure in New Mexico, Nebraska, Kansas, Iowa, Wyoming's Laramie Mountains, Sioux Falls region of South Dakota, Minnesota, Iowa, Montana, Idaho, Alaska, and in an earlier phase in Alabama, Florida, and Georgia, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, Arkansas, Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Colorado, New York, and I'm sure in time, if they haven't already covered the rest of the places, there's a good chance they will. They're looking for this stuff essentially everywhere that it might be.
Some people in south central Pennsylvania may soon notice a low-flying helicopter or airplane in the sky. These flights are all part of a new survey by the U.S. Geological Survey.
The massive survey marks an unprecedented change for our nation at large. Changes that North Carolina is now ground zero for, as the age of lithium is now upon us. An age of global reliance on relatively tiny amounts of rare earth element minerals. In fact, 2024 was promoted as the potential year for lithium.
And more time for fun and pleasure, family moments you will treasure. It's an opportunity to live better electrically.
Electric vehicles, cell phones, laptops, e-bikes, and other green energy technologies, including solar panels, and more. All of this is part of a global economy reliant upon rare earth minerals, most notably lithium, but also a couple dozen others. And in turn, American interest in so-called energy security are moving desperately to maneuver and source these essential minerals for the digital age, which are, at the present time, heavily dominated by China. That point's been talked up a lot. The race for rare earth minerals has been placed into a new Cold War 2.0 context. The narrative all over the West is that China is poised to be the new world superpower by 2050 without another war or firing a single shot, but simply by dominating the world's rare earth minerals market.
Rare earths could be the key to a transition to green energy. The rock from these mines are turned into building blocks or magnets. They're used in everything from iPhones to Teslas, and Beijing has a dominating hand over them. Last month, China imposed export controls on gallium and germanium, stoking fears that it could block exports of rare earths next. So, what would happen then?
They're sitting on $10 to $12 trillion of critical minerals in Ukraine. They could be the richest country in all of Europe. I don't want to give that money and those assets to Putin to share with China. If we help Ukraine now, they can become the best business partner we ever dreamed of. That $10 to $12 trillion of critical mineral assets could be used by Ukraine and the West, not given to Putin and China. This is a very big deal how Ukraine ends. Let's help them win a war we can't afford to lose. Let's find a solution to this war. But they're sitting on a gold mine to give Putin 10 or 12 trillion dollars of critical minerals that he will share with China is ridiculous.
So the West, including the EU and US, are in a mad rush to find their own sources of this mineral and stop the reliance upon China. That's the way this lithium-based green energy transition has been framed. In 2019, Reuters reported that China supplied 80% of the rare earths imported by the United States between 2014 and 2017. And this article was cited by Eric Schmidt in his National Security Report on AI. This is part of everything they're working towards. This is a national security plan that involves the technology. It's in response to this idea that China is controlling the supply of these rare earth minerals. Piedmont CEO Keith Phillips noted that in just 2022 alone, $33 billion has been announced for electric vehicle battery manufacturing plants in the United States, which would require 500,000 metric tons of lithium annually, an amount, he told CNBC, that is more than all the lithium hydroxide produced in the world currently. So clearly, the industry is facing a critical resource shortage.
The need is we are going to need exponentially greater numbers of critical minerals than we use today. Just to give you a couple of examples, 42 times the amount of lithium that we use today we will need by 2050, 25 times the amount of manganese. The numbers are staggering. That's the need. The vulnerability is that right now, 2/3 or even more of these minerals are owned, controlled, mined, or processed by one country, the PRC.
Thus, in the last few years, these vital rare earth elements have become really important in the national security imperative for the U.S. and its allies. Since June 2022, the formation of the Minerals Security Partnership, a coalition between 14 nations, Australia, Canada, Estonia, Finland, France, Germany, India, Italy, Japan, Norway, Republic of Korea, Sweden, the United Kingdom, the United States, the European Union. They're all in partnership with representatives of BlackRock, Goldman Sachs, Citigroup, Rio Tinto, and Anglo American, who've strategized, quote, breaking China's chokehold over rare earth minerals that are non-negotiable for the high-tech sector. DARPA and several branches of the federal government are focused on these rare earth minerals, the critical linchpin of the clean energy future. In 2023, the Department of Energy declared 18 critical minerals as the, quote, electric 18.
Critical because of the risk for supply chain disruptions due to any number of reasons, from political, regulatory, and social factors to basic availability.
3 rare earth elements, neodymium, dysprosium, and praseodymium, all just household names, all of them, are some of the most vulnerable critical minerals to supply chain disruptions. High-performance magnets require rare earths for fabrication, and these magnets are used in a litany of clean energy technologies, wind turbines, electric vehicles, solar panels, next-generation electric batteries, and efficient lighting systems. What a plan for efficiency, basing it on minerals that they don't know where to find. This is what's happening. And the United States has only one active mine and processing site for these rare earths. I guess depending on what you read, there's a little bit of conflicting information. But they're referring to Mountain Pass, California, whereas China, once again, is responsible for the most processing and refining of rare earth elements globally. In an executive order on America's supply chain signed by Biden last year, a review was ordered in the vulnerabilities of our critical mineral and material supply chains. In June, the Biden-Harris administration released a first-of-its-kind supply chain assessment that found our over-reliance on foreign sources and adversarial nations for critical minerals and materials posed a national and economic security threat. So it is interesting that in a bipartisan way, they're changing tech. I mean, I don't really know why it ever made sense for the U.S. to be so dependent on foreign sources of anything. Food, minerals, raw materials, but especially from a potentially hostile nation, rival superpower. Why did it ever make sense to be reliant upon someone else for a country so large and so full of potential? I mean, everyone has the same question in their mind. The review and other related reports have zeroed in on lithium for electric batteries, one of the most reoccurring aspects of this. A June 2021 report referred to innovations essential to military preparedness, like highly specialized lithium-ion batteries that require an ecosystem of innovation skills and production facilities that the United States currently lacks. And this again as the United States has only one active mining and processing site for rare earths located in Mountain Pass, California. This is all about to change, and drastically.
The electric economy plan worked out just as he predicted.
Billions of dollars are now being funneled into transforming America for the new green future. In the past couple of years, while everyone's been distracted with COVID, inflation, the election, there's been this mad dash to locate rare earth minerals for potential mines all over this country.
The state of Alabama will soon be an even bigger part of the automaking industry thanks to a rare earth mineral found deep in east central Alabama,
which North Carolina in particular is at the center of, and we're going to go into detail on that in a moment. But this is happening all over this entire nation right now, in practically every state.
We're seeing a renaissance throughout the whole country, says Virginia McLemore, an economic geologist at the New Mexico Bureau of Geology and Mineral Resources.
In the places where mining and processing of minerals itself isn't happening, you have EV battery manufacturing or recycling facilities that are popping up everywhere.
Michigan, long the automotive manufacturing capital of the United States, is now getting pumped with investment both publicly and privately to build out a series of battery manufacturing plants that will power the wave of electric vehicles coming to market.
In 2022, Vice reported on the U.S. Department of Energy investing millions of dollars into transforming America's Rust Belt into the Lithium Belt, which is an area that covers the majority of the Appalachian Basin. As part of the Battery Materials Processing and Battery Manufacturing and Recycling Program, the DOE is enabling $16 billion in investment to bolster domestic EV battery supply chains, including manufacturing, processing, and recycling. In September 2024, they just announced another $3 billion in investments, and there are projects all over the country for this, including expanding commercial-scale facilities to extract lithium, graphite, and other battery materials, and for battery component manufacturing. And there's a map they have on their website that shows where all these projects are all over the country. And there are so many opening up in South Carolina right now, just by the way, that you can barely see the state on the map.
Deep inside a northern Nevada volcano, deposits of what some are calling white gold or the new oil. There is plenty of lithium, and it's a vital part of flipping the switch towards more earth-friendly battery-powered technology.
Called white gold. That's because it's solid and it's white and it's silvery, and because of its potential economic value.
This surge to exploit deposits for mining across the U.S. is basically like the new gold rush of the 1800s, except for lithium and other rare earth minerals. And it's coming with great controversy. These locations are rapidly being put into operation, and it doesn't really matter if it bumps up against local community concerns for pollution or the tainting of groundwater or other environmental problems or not.
Panasonic officials say they're still on track to open up the state's first EV plant early next year.
General Motors and Samsung tonight are creating a $3 billion EV battery plant in New Carlisle, Indiana.
GM has announced a new plan to build an electric vehicle battery factory in Lansing. This would be their third such factory in the United States.
A planned $5.5 billion electric vehicle plant near Savannah is getting a presidential seal of approval.
It appears that a huge electric vehicle battery plant being built in Florence County is going to get even huger. Another electric vehicle battery plant heading into
I just want to emphasize that we couldn't even count how many new mining sites are being opened up in the near future to dig for these minerals because it's just that many. And in other cases, they're actually reopening or repurposing old mines, along with many processing facilities that were used in the production of nuclear and hydrogen bombs. Many of these same elements are actually involved, including the frequent interaction between lithium and forms of fluoride, many of which are outright poisonous or have proven to be detrimental to the environment. Just last month, it was reported that Hyundai's $7.6 billion EV plant in Georgia, which has been backed at every level of government, including the Republican governor, including officials in the Biden administration through the tax credits, was being protested by farmers and other residents who say that the 4 million gallons of water a day that this plant expects to use could drain the local aquifer and worsen the region's flooding. Not only do we not want to buy the product that's being made, said Amanda Wilson, a local anti-development activist, about the electric vehicles being produced there, but it's forcing us out of the way that we live. The Savannah fight shows how clean energy projects supported by the climate law are reshaping communities and ironically facing backlash for potential harm to the environment. And it's just kind of ironic because we've been lectured at for years about conservation, water conservation, how much drought is going on. And so the answer is to build plants that literally require millions of gallons of water a day. And people are protesting this. So it isn't just the impacts of the mining itself, but concerns regarding how much water these processes are going to require from already depleted water resources and what will happen to the quality of water in the nearby areas. And we're not just talking about the concerns over potentially tainting the groundwater, but concerns over the threat of salinizing freshwater sources, which could just make the water there undrinkable. I mean, there are some real issues around this. And North Carolina itself is a special case in this new gold rush for America's supply of lithium.
On today's episode, where will EV lithium come from? In the future, North Carolina.
This North Carolina lake sits on top of one of the largest hard rock lithium deposits in the U.S.
Kings Mountain we believe to be a top-tier, top quartile resource capable of supplying at least 1 million, if not more, electric vehicles with its feedstock.
That mine, currently covered in 150 feet of water, was previously open from the late 1930s until the 1980s, when mining in Chile was seen as more cost-effective.
When we are done, it'll look very similar to what it looked like before. There will be trucks and shovels. There will be a limited amount of blasting, and it will be a conventional hard rock mining operation.
At Kings Mountain, hard rock will be broken, crushed, and turned into a concentrate resembling sand.
We need to get the green stuff out, and that will produce what's called a spodumene concentrate.
That concentrate will be transported to Albemarle's soon-to-be-built $1.3 billion processing facility in South Carolina.
A new lithium mine could be coming to Gaston County. Piedmont Lithium announced today, years after the company applied, the state has approved its mining permit.
The North Carolina area lithium being discovered back in the 1950s when this was used to make atomic bombs.
The companies producing the lithium compound for the government are believed to be on 5-year contracts, most of which expire in the coming year. But industry officials appear confident that the Atomic Energy Commission will not cut orders so drastically that the economic health of the producers would be seriously affected. The metal, they feel, is too vital to national defense to allow its producers to suffer.
And interestingly, I came across this 1958 article in the Winston-Salem Sentinel about how during the International Geophysical Year, they put out a report that over Antarctica, they were finding the glow of lithium atoms in the upper atmosphere. Scientists were suggesting the atoms got there from explosions of hydrogen bombs, and they were able to then trace the lithium back to the mines in North Carolina. And at the time, they didn't know lithium was being used in these bombs when this report came out. But they were able to figure it out and figure out where it came from because it was one of the only places they were mining lithium at the time.
Think about this like a big chunk of chocolate chip cookie dough. We're after those chocolate chips, which is the spodumene. And when we pull those chocolate chips out, those chocolate chips will eventually be sent to the Megaflex. And that's where they're going to extract cocoa, which is the lithium.
So Charlotte, North Carolina-based Albemarle has been working on restarting an old lithium mine in Kings Mountain to be operational sometime between next year and 2030, with plans to build a lithium processing plant in the area. In September of 2023, it was announced the DoD entered a $90 million agreement with Albemarle to reopen the dormant Kings Mountain lithium mine using funds appropriated from the Inflation Reduction Act. And then in August of 2024, BlackRock Inc., who you'll recall is part of the Mineral Security Partnership, spent some $200 million to purchase an additional 2 million plus shares of Albemarle, bringing BlackRock's total holdings in the company to over 12 million shares. On the other hand, you have Piedmont Lithium, which is the supplier of Tesla, announcing in April 2024 that the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality had approved the company's mining permit for its Gaston County project in Belmont for the construction, operation, and reclamation of the proposed Carolina Lithium project. And Piedmont's president and CEO, Keith Phillips, said, "We plan to develop Carolina Lithium as one of the lowest cost, most sustainable lithium hydroxide operations in the world and a critical part of American electric vehicle supply chain. Project is expected to contribute billions of dollars of economic output and several hundred jobs to Gaston County and North Carolina's growing electrification economy." Piedmont has chosen nearby Etowah in eastern Tennessee as a location of what is currently expected to be the largest lithium hydroxide processing plant in the U.S.
Tennessee will soon have the largest lithium processing plant in North America. Piedmont Lithium is building a facility near Chattanooga to support the growing domestic industry of electric vehicles.
Mid-North Carolina is poised to become the nexus point, not only for lithium mining, but also for lithium processing sites, as well as EV battery manufacturers and electric vehicle production plants that are rapidly popping up in many parts of North Carolina and nearby eastern Tennessee, and in parts of South Carolina and parts of Georgia. And these production facilities are trying to form a completely integrated head-to-toe operation. We plan to develop Carolina Lithium as one of the lowest cost, most sustainable lithium hydroxide operations in the world, and as a critical part of the American electric vehicle supply chain. Carolina Lithium is a highly strategic project, located within both the renowned Carolina 10 spodumene belt and the U.S. battery belt. The project is being designed as a fully integrated mining, spodumene concentrate, and lithium hydroxide manufacturing operation. There are currently no such integrated sites operating anywhere in the world, and the economic and environmental advantages of this strategy are compelling.
And that's all before you get to tiny Spruce Pine, North Carolina, a town that's home to the entire world's main source of high-purity quartz that's needed for semiconductors, with facilities that supply between an estimated 70 to 90% of the mined and processed high-purity quartz used in the entire industry. This one little town, which just got wiped out by the hurricane, although the mines are okay, is so central for not only its quartz, but the proprietary refining processes that the Belgian company that mines this quartz uses, that the Daily Mail ran with the headline that Spruce Pine will help fuel the entire world's AI revolution and power an entire $530 billion semiconductor global industry. So the properties of the minerals in North Carolina are quite unique to the whole world. But right now, we have the government using new technology to help discover new mineral deposits, not just there, but in states all over this country. More lithium was just discovered in a massive formation that covers parts of Louisiana, Texas, Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida, and it's being reported that that might contain enough lithium to power 50 million electric vehicles. And you have chemical plants in Louisiana that are already being converted into EV battery manufacturing plants as we speak. And speaking of Florida, scientists are also saying that Florida phosphates are significant sources of rare earth elements, noting that the state could, quote, satisfy nearly 50% of the U.S. demand for many of the critical rare earth elements. Wyoming, they just said, they found 2.3 billion metric tons of rare earth minerals there in the southeastern part of the state. In Idaho, the first and only cobalt mine in decades is opening right now. In Nebraska, they just discovered there might be the second largest rare earth mineral deposit.
This will be the second largest rare earth resource in the United States.
The company that wants to dig a mine in southeast Nebraska says resources under this ground could help in the renewable energy revolution.
A latest survey published today shows a huge deposit of rare earth material, among other critical metals, south of Tecumseh.
NioCorp says that this could be the discovery that gets the mine a green light.
All of these say it's the largest or the second largest. They're discovering everything all the time, and so everything that they discover, they're like, no, this is the largest. No, that's the largest. Southern California's Imperial Valley right now is currently being transformed into Lithium Valley. So this is basically everywhere, is what I'm saying. The new paradigm is spreading to every corner of this country while everyone has been paying attention to everything else. Like, this is what's actually going on. I think the only state I couldn't find anything in right now so far is Wisconsin. That's just for right now. That doesn't mean anything about the future. They also found a $1.5 billion lithium deposit in western Maine a few years ago, which they claim had some of the largest lithium-bearing crystals that have ever been found.
The magnitude of this is really something new. It's estimated to be worth roughly $1.5 billion. But what makes it really unique, I think, is the richness of the lithium in these particular crystals. It is the richest known lithium deposit in the world. It contains about 11 million tons of ore.
But under Maine's recently enacted mining laws, it's unclear if this can be extracted. However, it was reported that this particular type of mining is so extremely rare that there isn't an area of the rule in Maine that specifically explains this kind of work. And that's the thing. Many laws in this country, not just mining laws, but water laws, don't cover certain facets of these types of mining and processes because a lot of them are so new to the country. And the thing is while a lot of people have been championing this green transition that's being touted as so much better for our environment as a whole, not that many of those same exact people actually want any of these mining operations or processes or battery facilities in their own backyards.
This is a small community in a rural area. A lot of folks really do not want that to change. They moved here to kind of get that country lifestyle. They don't want to have a big factory in their backyard.
So we're kind of stuck in this paradox now of how willing will Americans be to accept the dirty side of clean energy.
And not everyone agrees that expansion of mining is the best way forward for a sustainable future.
Suffice to say that the techniques, which are different for each obscure mineral, which could be found in a deposit with many different rare earth minerals, are complicated and controversial. And certainly in the case of fracking, which is sometimes used for this purpose, hypocritical under the banner of environmental moralism. And Columbia's Climate School has written about the paradox of lithium, an essential element to power the clean energy transition, can have negative impacts on the environment. And one sentence in particular stands out from that. They said, "We must not fall into the same traps from which we are trying to free ourselves."
Producers are also facing environmental pushback.
I simply feel this bad feeling in my stomach. This is progress. This is the future. Really? Pouring concrete over nature, while we know how polluting the factory is going to be. Is this the green future? For who? I'm sure not for us.
So you have protests now that have been going on against lithium mining all over the world. In Chile.
A protest by several hundred people in northern Chile on Wednesday blocked access to the Atacama Salt Flat, the world's largest lithium deposit, where domestic producer SQM and U.S. firm Albemarle extract the metal.
Serbia, where they recently signed a memorandum of understanding with the German government and the EU.
In Serbia in December 2021, we saw a lot of protests and thousands of protesters in Belgrade blocking bridges to protest Rio Tinto's plans to invest over $2 billion there for lithium production.
German Chancellor Olaf Scholz paid a surprise visit to Belgrade a few weeks ago to sign a major lithium mining deal with Serbian President Alexander Vučić in a bid to reduce the EU's dependency on China. Germany has ambitions to build 15 million electric vehicles by 2030 to keep its automobile industry afloat, which the German economy is largely dependent upon. But widespread protests are planned across Serbia this weekend, with more than half of the Serbian population rejecting plans to mine in the Udar Valley. These plans are not only controversial due to the environmental cost of mining, but also because of the politics. So it seems that the EU just wants to keep the dirty work outside of its own backyard.
In Portugal,
she points to where the mine's perimeter would be,
I worry about the destruction it could cause and it ruining our lives. We are here in a little corner of the world that they're going to damage.
Opposition to the mine runs strong. Signs against it, like this one, are found across the community. That's despite the promise of jobs.
Most of the fields we rely on are in the perimeter of the proposed mine. It is not green, it is not sustainable, it is not going to benefit us, and it is going to destroy one more region, rich in water and pure air.
The mine could stretch over more than 500 hectares, which could spoil the landscape of a village listed as World Agricultural Heritage.
And there have been a lot of protests happening here as well, mostly by Native American groups in states like Arizona and Nevada, who don't want to see their sacred sites and their water resources tainted or destroyed.
From Nevada Public Radio, I'm Joe Shaneman. It's State of Nevada. The fight over Thacker Pass, a lithium-rich area in northern Nevada, has been raging for months. The state and Lithium America, the company that would be the prime mine investor, say the mine could operate without hurting the environment or people. The state approved licensing in February of 2022, but the people of the Paiute, Shoshone, and Washoe tribes have been protesting because of the area's spiritual and historical significance. Those opposed to the mine have argued the approval was fast-tracked without a complete environmental review.